Visual hallucinations. First up, we've got visual hallucinations. This one's probably the easiest to imagine. Basically, it's when you see something that isn't actually there. It could be a flash of light, a shadow in the corner of your room, a strange figure, or even entire objects that only you can see. Imagine, you're just chilling in your room when suddenly you catch a flash of light out of the corner of your eye. Or maybe you're looking in the mirror and it feels like there's someone standing behind you who just appeared out of nowhere. But in reality, there's absolutely nothing and no one there. Pretty creepy, right? Is it risky? Definitely. If this happens often, it can cause you to overreact to things that aren't real, which might lead to panic, trauma, intense fear, or even trigger serious mental health problems. So yeah, be careful. Next up, we've got auditory hallucinations. This one messes with your sense of hearing. It's when you suddenly hear strange sounds like whispers, conversations, commands, music, or other odd noises, but there's actually no real source for them. For example, when you might be sitting alone out of nowhere, it sounds like someone's whispering your name right next to you. Or maybe you hear a voice telling you to do something. Creepy, right? And yep, it can be dangerous. Sometimes these unreal voices can be incredibly convincing and influence your subconscious, like telling someone to jump off a building or do something harmful. The impact? It can seriously mess with your mental state. These hallucinated voices can feel so real that they quickly affect your behavior, making it hard to tell what's real and what's not. Olfactory hallucinations. Third, olfactory hallucinations, also known by its cool name, phantosmia. This one has to do with your sense of smell. You suddenly catch a strange scent that isn't actually there. It could be something bad like smoke or rotten food, or something pleasant like perfume, but no matter how strong it seems, there's no real source for it and no one else can smell it. Imagine when you're hanging out with friends, out of nowhere you catch a strong whiff of smoke, but there's no fire, no smoke, nothing at all. Your friends just look at you, totally confused because they don't smell a thing. The impact? It can leave you feeling anxious, on edge, overly suspicious, or constantly feel like something's just not right all the time. Fourth up, gustatory hallucinations. This one messes with your sense of taste. It makes you experience flavors that aren't actually there, like a metallic taste, extreme bitterness, overwhelming sweetness, or other odd flavors that don't come from anything you've eaten. Imagine when you're just relaxing and out of nowhere you suddenly taste something bitter, metallic, or even like poison without having eaten or drunk anything at all. Weird, right? The impact? It can make you feel paranoid, anxious, or even traumatized about certain foods and drinks. Next up, tactile hallucinations. Tactile hallucinations, sometimes called somatic hallucinations. This type messes with your sense of touch. It makes you feel things on your body that aren't really there. You might feel like something's touching you, biting you, or even crawling on your skin, but in reality, nothing's happening. For example, someone with a delusional disorder might suddenly feel like insects are crawling all over their skin. Instinctively, they start scratching, sometimes so much that it causes injuries. But the truth is, there's not a single insect there, and no real physical contact at all. The impact? When this happens frequently, it can make you feel super anxious, uncomfortable, stressed out, or even lead to self-harm. Kinesthetic hallucinations. Alright, number 6 is kinesthetic hallucinations. The easiest way to explain it is your body feels like it's having its own internal drama, even though on the outside, you're completely still. You sense strange movements happening inside your body, things you normally wouldn't notice or things that just don't feel right. It's more like, what's going on inside me? And that usually happens to people with neurological issues. For example, have you ever been sitting still and suddenly felt like blood was rushing intensely through your veins? Even though that's not something you'd usually notice, that could be one form of it. Or maybe when you're just chilling, watching TV, and suddenly your arm or leg muscles feel like they're vibrating or being pulled, like some invisible force is tugging at them, yet there's no visible movement at all. That's another sign of this type of hallucination. The impact? It's definitely confusing. You might start thinking, what's wrong with my body? Why is it moving on its own? And that feeling can trigger anxiety, discomfort, or even make you feel like you're losing control over yourself. Next up, proprioceptive hallucinations. This one's a bit different. It's all about your body's position feeling off. You might feel like your body is shifting, floating, or even changing shape, even though physically you haven't moved at all. Imagine when you're lying comfortably in bed and suddenly it feels like your body is floating way up, like you're flying through the sky. Or in a more intense case, it might feel like your spirit is leaving your body, what people often call an out-of-body experience. Yep, that's very proprioceptive. The impact? Just like kinesthetic hallucinations, this can be pretty shocking and cause panic, especially because it feels like you're losing control over your body's position in the real world. It can be seriously mind-blowing. So, what's the difference between kinesthetic and proprioceptive hallucinations? Alright, to keep it super clear, the key difference is in the focus of the sensation. Kinesthetic hallucinations are more about specific internal movements or physical sensations like muscles twitching or blood rushing, things you wouldn't normally notice. It's more micro, focusing on the details of internal movement. And the proprioceptive hallucinations, meanwhile, are about your whole body's position in space. You might feel like you're floating, shifting locations, or even leaving your body entirely. It's more macro, centered on your overall spatial awareness. So even though both involve unreal body sensations, the focus and scale are totally different. Number 8 is hypnagogic hallucinations. This type shows up right as you're falling asleep, during that strange in-between moment when you're not fully awake, but not fully asleep either. Usually it's pretty brief, but depending on certain medical conditions, it can last a bit longer. Imagine, when you're super sleepy, your eyes are starting to close and suddenly you see a flash of light, strange shadows, or even a face appearing in the darkness. Or maybe you hear someone calling your name, but no one's actually there. Some people even feel like they're falling from a height or floating midair. But don't worry, this usually only lasts for a short moment, and around 70% of healthy people have experienced it at least once in their lives. However, if it keeps happening and starts to bother you, it could be a sign of a sleep disorder, something you might want to get checked out by a professional. Hypnopompic hallucinations, which are basically the opposite of hypnagogic ones. Instead of happening as you're falling asleep, these kick in right after you wake up, when you're not fully alert yet. Imagine this. You just opened your eyes, still groggy, and suddenly it feels like there's a figure standing right next to your bed. But once you're fully awake, the figure disappears. It could also be voices or other weird sensations. Even so, it's not really a big deal. Just like hypnagogic hallucinations, it usually fades pretty fast, so no need to stress about it too much. Next up, presence hallucinations. Presence hallucinations, also known as extracampine hallucinations. This one's pretty unique because the sensation of a presence comes from outside the normal range of human senses, and it usually happens in specific medical conditions. For example, a Parkinson's patient might say they see a figure standing behind the doctor during an exam, but when in fact, it's clearly just the two of them in the room. Or they might feel like someone's right behind them, even though there's no sight, no sound, nothing at all. And yet, that feeling feels so real. The impact? This kind of sensation can trigger anxiety, fear in more extreme cases, and might lead to harmful behavior, especially if someone feels like they're being followed or threatened. Number 11, mystical hallucination. This is when you see, hear, or feel like you're interacting with spiritual figures like God, angels, demons, or other supernatural beings. For example, someone might suddenly feel like they've received a divine revelation from God, or feel like they're having a full-on conversation with some kind of supernatural entity. This often shows up in intense religious contexts, or it could be a sign of a psychotic condition. So yeah, it's really important to pay close attention to how often it happens and in what context. The impact? If it's left unchecked, your behavior might start to seem unusual to those around you. And sadly, that could lead to people distancing themselves, friends, family, or even your community. And finally, sexual hallucinations. This is an experience where someone feels sensations or perceives sexual activity that isn't real. It might involve sensations in genital areas, visualizing sexual content, or even hearing sounds related to sexual activity. These hallucinations can be unimodal, affecting just one sense, or multimodal, involving several senses at once. For example, some people report feeling like they're being sexually assaulted while asleep, or waking with unexplained sexual sensations. The cause is, this can happen due to sleep disorders, past sexual trauma, or certain neurological conditions. And in some cultures, this phenomenon is often associated with supernatural beings like incubi or succubi. The impact? The effects are quite varied, ranging from mental health issues, behavioral problems, to certain medical conditions that require treatment. Basically, hallucinations are perception disorders that involve all our five senses. Our brains hallucinate and make us experience false sensations like hearing, smelling, tasting, feeling, or seeing something that isn't actually there or isn't real. And the causes for all the types of hallucinations we've discussed are pretty varied. They can range from mental health conditions like schizophrenia, delusion, severe depression, or trauma. They can also be due to nerve and brain disorders like Parkinson's, epilepsy, Alzheimer's, sleep disorders, excessive alcohol consumption, side effects from illicit drugs, and many more possible causes. Just remember this one important thing. In some cases, hallucinations can be seriously dangerous both to yourself and others. So, if you or someone you care about is experiencing any of these symptoms, don't wait. Get professional help soon. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on our latest updates. Thank you.